you ever thought about doors in video games? Like, at all? They seem quite innocuous, don't you think? It's just something you use to get from one room to another, right? Well, how about in a game where every single room is a gigantic, magical, slightly eldritch fantasy world? Because in that case, I'd think about doors a lot. And let me tell you, I have. So, the great doors in Deltarune are weird, right? They seem like simultaneously not a big deal in Chapter 1, and also a really big deal. It's literally on the Save Select screen. But they're in the actual game for about a minute, and with the exception of the same Great Door in Castletown, we didn't see the Great Doors at all. So it must have been something exclusive to Castletown, right? Well, no, because then in Chapter 3 and 4 came out and confirmed the Great Doors can appear in any dark world, and seemingly represent doors in the light world, either between one dark world and light world, and in Chapter 4 confirmed they can separate two dark worlds, if they're separated by a door in real life. This way, we can find out that the Great Door acts as a way to leave a dark world at any time, without sealing the Dark Fountain, and also represents doors in the light world. We know from Chapter 4 that if a door is locked in the light world, in the dark world, it will also be locked. Although, in Chapter 4, Susie is chasing the knight up the stairs, when the knight locks the Great Door behind them. We have no idea if the second Dark World already exists at this point. I'd assume it was technically, we can't be sure, so the knight might have just exited the Dark World and in like half a second, locked the door behind them, and then made a second Dark World. But if that was not what happened, how was the knight able to get through the door while it was locked in the light world? Will the knight just get through any Great Door whenever they want? Does the knight carry an enormous amount of keys for every individual Great Door? Schrodinger's Dark World? Are you overthinking something that was done to justify the creation of another Dark World? Probably. Also, in Chapter 1, Color Dark World, the Castletown Dark World, its Great Door initially isn't locked until Welsay locks it. And then, back in the light world, the door between the closet and the unused classroom is now locked. So, does that mean locking a door in the dark world affects that door in the light world? Maybe. That's everything I can think of about the Great Doors in the game so far. But let's go back to the previous point. As shown by the end of Chapter 3, the Great Doors can be used to exit the Dark World at any time, before the Dark World Fountain. As shown by the end of Chapter 3, the Great Doors can be used to exit the Dark World at any time, before the Dark World is sealed, and the Dark World no longer exists. So far in Deltarune, this only happened in cutscenes, as part of the story, something the player has no control over. But what if you did? This is the actual main part of the video, which, based on the increasing relevance and explanation of the function of Great Doors in the last two chapters, I think Chapter 5, or technically could be Chapter 6, but I'm hoping 5, will allow us to exit and leave the Dark World at any time, and if I either visit the Light World in the middle of the Dark World story, or go visit Castletown, thus making the game less linear, and we can do both light and dark world stuff at the same time. Not really evidence, but something I think helps this idea is the fact Chapter 5 is most likely the chapter where the festival takes place, which would mean there would be a lot of light world content, and I could see a way to make this chapter more unique, and also break up the two main parts of the game being so separate and mixing them together. Might even have a part in Chapter 5 where we need to do stuff in the light world to do something in the dark world. like bringing in an object to create specific darkness, or something we need to do for the secret boss, like bringing in a collection of items to form some sort of key for what could be their prison, similar to other previous secret bosses. But that's just me doing wild speculation. However, the main thing I can see as counter-evidence to this idea is it would probably take a lot of effort and resources to implement well, considering the time it took for Deltas 3 and 4 to be made. At the same time, most of that dev time was probably setting up back-end stuff for the game to make development easier, such as refactoring the code to make the project more modular, and easier to add more mechanics to the game. Also, it's known Chapter 5 was in development at the same time as Chapters 3 and 4, so if they were planning something ambitious like this, they may have spent that time implementing the feature before the other parts of the chapter were added. So now I've given my evidence, I'll go into pure speculation and talk about some specific ways this idea can be used. So there may be two other Lightners who may be joining us in Chapter 5. Either Noelle again, as she could come to the Dark World and find out if the normal route is indeed real, which I believe is something that will probably have to happen in the story at some point, rather sooner than later, considering we are now approaching over halfway through the story. This could happen as she sees us enter and leave the Flower King shop constantly multiple times, and wonder what we were doing, only to end up in the Dark World once more. Another idea I have is Catty, specifically Catty with an I, who people have wanted as another Lightner in a Dark World, potentially as a side antagonist like Birdley. Both Catty and Jockington have a rivalry set up between them, and Susie and Chris in Chapter 4. It would be a huge shame if this rivalry wasn't built on in the Dark World, considering Noelle might be in the same chapter. This might cause the Inferno of Jealousy get some mentions in the same chapter, as it's implied through some of the second Spampton sweepstakes that Catty may have some affection for Noelle. I like the idea of a Lightner finding the Dark World as we're exploring, and we can both interact in the Light and Dark Worlds at the same time. Another idea I have is that we might need to unlock a Dark World door in the Light World. Not sure how similar to a section in Persona 5, where you have to do that in the second pass of that game. And we know Toby Fox is a Persona fan, so it could happen. I know this isn't the most high-effort Deltarune video ever, but it is an idea that's been circulating in my head for a while, so I wanted to get it out in this format. I just think not would this be a really fun addition to Deltarune's gameplay, but also would help pacing-wise and give Chapter 5 its own unique gimmick compared to other chapters. There isn't much of a theory and more me discussing what I think is foreshadowed for future mechanics in the game, but I'm not much of a theory person, and I find stuff like this fun to speculate about. So, happy 7th anniversary to Deltarune, and happy Halloween everyone! Bye!